nostalgia, memories, growing up in Central Florida in the 1990s. What a bunch of sappy crap. It's the Sappy Crap Podcast, starring Steve Bauman and Jarman Day.
Welcome to the Sappy Crap Podcast, where the names are changed, but the stories are real. I'm Jarman.
And I'm Steve. We're here to tell all sorts of crazy, trippy stories that only two real good longtime friends can.
That's right.
And what are we talking about this week, Jarman?
Well, this week I thought we thought we'd talk about Sportsball or
Sportsball
or sport as they call it in the UK. So, as you probably know if you listen to the show a lot, Steve and I are not the sportiest guys in the world. We're a couple of drama geeks.
I've been accused of such.
Yeah, we're nerds. We aren't really on. Steve works in technology. I'm an actor as well, and so we don't really do that stuff. But you know, we had experiences growing up with that thing. So, the sport.
That's right. Well, Jarman, what's the first sport that you were in a league?
Oh man, well, I like many kids, I guess, in the U.S. You know, were shoved into little league baseball, and I was pretty terrible. And because I was as Steve might know, I was a weak, sickly kid because I had heart problems. And so until I had my heart surgery when I was like 12, I was just super skinny and pale and frail. And so they put me into Little League, and they had to give every kid a position. And they saw how bad I was, and they at the tryouts.
Boy.
Yeah, I wish there was a towel boy position, but they shoved me out in the right field, sometimes left field. And I guess right field is the place you get the least action because most people are right-handed at bat, so they hit the ball. It usually goes to left field if it goes that far. So we'll stick him in right field where the least things happen.
Yeah, there's a whole song about how right field is like a loser's place in Little League.
Yeah, exactly.
The whole song about it.
And so I would be out there looking at butterflies and just hoping nothing came my way. And every time the ball came my way, these other kids, so young, were still taking it so seriously. And I'd miss the ball, or I wouldn't get the grounder, and they'd be like, Jarman, damn it. So it sucked. And I remember at one point, my parents are immigration attorneys, and so they often take a lot of cases pro bono growing up, or they'd take trades for things because clients couldn't pay. So one of their clients was this a minor league baseball player who was moving to Orlando to play for a team. And with part of a trade, he says, you know, can you give our son some lessons? And so I met with this minor league baseball player from, I forgot what country he was from, to give me some lessons. We did 2 or 3, and I think we just kind of said, this isn't worth it. So
he just looked at you and went, kid, this isn't worth it.
He's like,
I don't need to get in the country that bad.
Yeah. He just deported himself. It was that bad.
I gotta go.
But I was that bad. We just said, no, this isn't even worth his time. So, yeah, baseball.
I told this on another episode, and it may have been of this show. I'm not sure, but I went to one of your Little League games.
Ooh.
5th grade. It was by that park, by the high school football field.
Oh, yeah.
It's the first time I met your dad, I think.
Oh.
And you were out in right field, and there was a ball that was actually, no, you got put on second base or something.
That might have happened once or twice.
Position
yeah.
Well, I was there, buddy. You were put in second base, and the batter hit it, and it went 10 or 12 feet over your head.
Right.
Like center field should have gotten it. And you put your glove up. I remember your dad was like, I didn't even jump for it. And I remember looking and going he could have been Shaquille O'Neal and jumped, and he wouldn't have gotten that. But I remember your dad was just upset that you hadn't at least tried to jump for this thing, but there was no possible way you could have gotten it.
I should jump for it.
After that, I went and we had wings for the first time in my life, and I fell in love with wings that day.
That was the first time you had wings.
Yeah, your dad took us to Wings and Things after your Little League game.
That's just the most important part of this podcast. That was the first time you had wings.
It is. I think really my first sport was probably soccer.
Oh, okay.
I played it 3 or 4 seasons from 7 to 10. You know, like fall soccer, spring soccer. And the thing I've got 2 very specific memories or sort of recollections is that the coolness of your team was based off the color you were. So I'm pretty sure first season I was green team, and that was pretty lame.
For some reason.
And then we got light blue, and light blue was like, all right, we're light blue. That's all right. We're no dark blue, but you know. And then we got red one season, and then we were the red team. And who's the bad guy and like the good bad guy in all the movies?
The red team.
Always. So we were the red team. And then my last season, we were like the maroon team. It was the worst color to end on.
See, now that'd be my favorite color to play, maroon.
That's true. Just dark colors.
Well, do you remember being any good at soccer?
Here's what I remember about me actually playing. I was in the goal a lot because I was just bigger than most of the other kids, and I just took up more space. I had longer arms and legs.
Sure.
I was harder to shoot around. I had a foot like a rocket because I was so much bigger than a lot of the kids, and I could just boot the ball. So like playing defense, half of the time my move was like not like pass it to my teammate downfield. It was line the ball up and kick it downfield as hard as I can.
Plus, you've always had giant calves, like just massive
I've
calves.
Yes, that is accurate. I've got calves that I don't deserve. But yeah, I remember I would just punt it and cause the other team just to like lose any momentum they were having and have to chase the ball down back to their side of the field.
Hey, I've seen enough Major League Soccer stuff and where they actually, that's used a lot. Just kick it out of there, get it out of the way.
Yeah, just clear it. Clear it. Yeah. And the other thing I remember is that I got subbed in to take penalty kicks for a lot of time.
Mm.
So they would like bring me in to like scare goalies, basically. They're like, oh no, the kid that kicks so hard is going to come take the kick.
Oh no.
And my dad, so let me tell a two-pronged story about my dad here in soccer. So my dad was the assistant coach, I think like my last season.
Nice.
Or something on the team. And the main coach and his son were out for something. And so my dad was the coach for one game. And there was a kid on the other team. And there was always, in every sport I played, there was always this one kid who wore long pants and used them as an excuse to slide tackle, basically. He used them as guards for his legs. And I remember him doing this and kind of hurting someone on the team or taking someone down. And the ref giving me a warning, my dad being really outraged the kid didn't get thrown out. And then, they're on the sideline and my dad, I don't know if this is true, said that he heard the coach basically encouraging the kid.
Oh, man.
To do it. And he told him to go shove it up his own ass. And the ref heard that part and threw my dad out of the game. So my dad got expelled from a soccer game for yelling at a coach for telling a kid to hurt other kids.
Yeah, who does that? That's ridiculous.
And then my buddy Jeremy's dad, who was like third in line, stepped up and was coach for the rest of the game.
Oh, man.
Now, here's the other side of the prong. My dad never encouraged me to hurt anyone.
Mm-hmm.
That was never what he said. But I remember him telling me when I was kicking penalty shots, he said, kick it so hard they're afraid to get in front of it.
And that makes sense.
You don't want to hurt them, but you want them to think about if it's worth it.
Right.
I remember you don't need to just scare them a little. You don't need to hurt them. Just scare them a little.
That's like every time I went to bat in Little League, I was like, is it worth me getting in the way of this fastball coming towards me? Or am I just going to take a ball and just or a strike? Take a strike. I don't care. It's not worth it.
Yeah, not worth it.
The best part of the game is at the end when they give you hot dogs or something, So just
that's true. That's what everyone's waiting for is a goddamn like orange slice.
I just gotta survive to the end of this game, and I'm gonna get a hot dog. That's all that matters.
Nothing talks about survival during sports more than like PE. At school, phys ed.
Well, that's my first experience with soccer was when I think a lot of phys ed classes in middle school and even high school, I think we played soccer. And I hated it because so many kids just went straight for your shins, like trying to kick at your feet out from underneath you.
Oh, yeah. And they didn't give you shin guards. Like they didn't have shin guards enough for everybody for elementary school soccer.
There's no one refereeing it either. Like what's in PE, they're just like, go play soccer. And you're like, no, please. Don't.
Aren't you going to supervise?
I need an adult, please. But also like dodgeball I hated. I mean, it's ridiculous.
I mean, yeah, dodgeball is it's a way. And then there's other stuff. I look back at PE and there's so much like survival of the fittest crap.
It is
pucked in there. Games like dodgeball and bombardment. And then the prospect of team picking is like another
nightmare.
Huge. And it's not a nightmare. Looking back at it, it takes the coaches and it takes them out of blame's way. They didn't make the teams. You did.
Yeah.
So instead of turning on the coach, kids turn on each other.
But that's like
even then suddenly there's that kid who ruined the game for everybody because he's not as good.
But even an episode of Big Bang Theory I watched recently, it's been the joke for like 40 years now in movies where like you're the last kid to get picked on the team. You know, it's like no one wants to be in that situation because they know you're sickly and tiny and you're going to suck at playing. So you get picked last and you feel like shit. You know, it's like that. We don't need to do that anymore to kids.
Right. It was just a chance fourth period every day to remind me where I stood in the social hierarchy.
That's right.
I appreciated that every day it got to happen.
Well, and for PE, for me, I can't remember what year it was, but I got a D in PE because I refused to dress out. They called it dressing out for some reason, which means changing into your gym clothes. And I didn't want to go into the room with all the other boys and change in front of them and change into clothes, and especially not shower in there or whatever. And so they said, okay, well, you get an F for the day. I'm like, okay, like this is terrible. Right. I'm like, I don't want to change. I don't want to do this garbage. And so I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. And I also remember I told this story many times, but PE related. We had severe dress codes in middle school, which were very important, of course, about how long your sleeves were, how long your shorts were. And we had a PE coach named somebody. I won't say his name here because I can't quite remember it anyways.
It was Coach G, I want to say.
Yes, Coach G. I think that's his name. Real tall, real fit, tan guy in his 40s maybe. And he was just he wearing shorts every single day of the year.
Yeah, like 70s style
shorts,
tennis shorts.
You're seeing his whole thigh.
Oh yeah, I remember he put his foot up on the bleachers and they get real touch and go for a little bit there.
A little hairy there. Oh, I shouldn't say hairy. But anyways, so he was in. For some reason, they enlisted him to come into like one of these life sciences courses to tell us about the dress code, and he was telling us about how we should wear your shorts have to be this long for in walking around classes. And as he's demonstrating, his shorts are way too short.
He's like putting his hand down by his side.
And this is how I remember it. I don't know if it's actually happened this way, but I raised my hand and I said, well, sir, aren't your shorts too short for the dress code? And then I got detention.
So here's what I remember.
Okay. Tell me how it really happened.
This situation. I don't remember the detention thing, but there was an administrator that came to talk. I don't know if it was a class or if we were all in the gym or something. But they at the end talked about dress code. And then at the end said, are there any questions? And there were a few about like specific type things. And I think it was you who asked, does the dress code apply to teachers?
Yes.
I said, yes, of course. And you said, what about Coach G? And I remember the administrator being a little bit taken aback, but saying, we'll have to think about that and discuss it, and then moved on.
I remember getting a detention. I don't remember.
You may have. I mean, maybe you got snarky somewhere else and got a detention about it.
Because I've gotten
the situation I remember didn't lead to negative. It led to like an admin going, "Oh,
I guess I got to think about that, huh?" Because of course they're thinking of like girls are going to be wearing shorts that short or skirts or something, but not thinking about the male PE coach who's wearing shorts that are too short.
Well, the thing is, like those girls, they're going to wear it for PE and then, go change into something appropriate. But he's in that all day.
Yeah,
Coach G.
Exactly.
All day.
Showing off those tan legs.
That's right.
Oh, PE. Such a wonderful experience.
Here's a PE memory for me in sports is there were always like sports you could identify. The ones you knew, basketball, volleyball. Sure. And then there were international sports they tried to throw on us. I remember there was like a foot, basically like hacky sack plus volleyball kind of game.
Sounds familiar.
I want to say the Philippines, maybe. I remember we tried this and none of us recorded it enough to keep this crap up off the ground. I remember it was the biggest fail ever. But then there were like made up games, just made up things. And one of these was a capture the flag type game with like 120 kid PE class.
Jesus.
That involved pool noodles and buckets on either side and capturing the most noodles and taking them back to your base.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was a crazy big thing. It was a huge event. And I remember sprinting down and making it to one of the noodle things and grabbing a noodle and running back to my base full bore. And I was so excited because I had a noodle and I was like almost on our side of the field. And this girl was coming the opposite way and we just like clipped in the face.
Ooh.
Like boom. I went down. She went down. She cracked one of her front teeth.
Oh my gosh.
Front tooth. I had a huge cut on my cheek from where that chip had like
Gone into your
come
face.
out and gotten me. Yeah. And I remember we were both in really bad shape, like really bad shape. Her face is swollen, my face is swollen. And the teacher's like, well, you can take each other to the nurse, right? So we take each other to the nurse. This is the first time I ever talked to this girl. We actually end up talking and then kind of in some ways bonding over this.
Right.
In that, like, through the rest of the middle school, anytime we saw each other, it was like, how's your face? And this girl and I ended up like dating for 6 days in high school. And now we work together at Apple.
Oh, you worked with Ripple now?
Yeah. That's a girl who I just bashed faces with.
That's hilarious.
When we were 10 or maybe 11.
That's really funny. What are the chances?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I think I remember experience during PE where there was a big thing for a lot of kids in our school that wear these white sneakers that were very, very white. And some of them would even wear them out to PE, which was silly because if you want to keep them white, why are you wearing them out in the grass and stuff? But this one kid, I accidentally stepped on his shoe during PE, and he was so upset, cursing at me. How dare you get my shoes dirty? Who the fuck are you? Blah, blah, blah. And then he spits on me, like just full on spits on me. I was just like, I hate PE. It's just the worst experience.
PE is the worst.
I don't want to be outside. It's Florida and it's so hot. It's just terrible.
That was really the crux of most of it. It is Florida. It is so hot.
Can we go back in the gymnasium where I also hate it?
I have to go outside when I go to the bus. Do I have to go outside now?
Ever? Please never again.
So after PE, I played a little bit of like junior league basketball in Florida. I was in the Junior Magic League.
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah. And I was on a undefeated championship team.
What?
In no way thanks to me. None way thanks to me. I was on team with some very, very talented African-American kids from West Winter Park.
Okay.
Before it was gentrified, as I'm to understand it is now.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just really good. And like, I rode those coattails hard.
What do you remember position you played?
Tall kid. Except for I wasn't even that, because there was one of the kids was like 3 or 4 inches taller than me.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. He was I don't know. We had 2 kids on the team who just carried us. One was big and tall and like played really good defense. And the other one was a short, fast dribbler who could move the ball like crazy and put it in the hoop.
A Muggsy Bogues.
They carried us. And I almost got to start one time until the ref called like, hey, you've got too many guys on the court. And my coach pulled me at the last moment. The one time I almost got to actually start. We played before a Magic basketball game because we were the champions. We beat like the Maryland champion traveling Pee-wee basketball team who were in the state for some sort of competition. And we were like supposed to be their warm-up game.
And you shamed them.
Yeah, we did. They were our closest game. I still remember they were our closest game, but yeah, we beat them.
Dang. And were you actually playing any of that game?
Maybe probably a few minutes. I do remember they brought in a couple ringers though.
Oh,
I remember they brought in, because this wasn't league play, so there were no rules. This was like an exhibition. So they brought in 2 or 3 of the better kids from the other teams. I remember this. And so me and the other guys, the benchy guys, didn't really get to play a whole lot.
Gotcha.
My only like shining moment in all this is there were not that many teams in this league. There were maybe 7 teams. So you played the same teams like over and over and over. And this one team had the assistant coach there that week. And he was getting really loud. I remember he was kind of yelling and banging tails and stuff and getting mad with his boys. And we were on the court and somebody stole a pass and passed it to me. And he flipped out and grabbed the judge's table and screamed and like threw it into the middle of the court.
The hell?
Papers everywhere. The timer was like upside down. And
what did they do?
And he got expelled from the building. This was like at a community center, so there was always a police officer there. So it calmed down pretty quickly. But I was the kid holding the basketball when it happened, so I got 2 personal foul shots. Nice.
Did you make either of them?
I made both.
Hey,
100% net on both. The only time I've ever done such a thing in my life was at this super clutch moment. And while I'm not going to say that we won because of my shots, we were in the last minute. We were only up by 2. So my 2 shots took us to head by 4, which made us a little bit more comfortable, and then we ended up winning.
Nice. You
Like,
helped.
but I'm not going to say like I made it at the buzzer and I'm the one that I'm like, yeah, I gave us a little bit of buffer at a moment where it was important.
You are Orlando's
through a table.
You're Orlando's Rudy right now.
I am. I'm Rudy, but twice as tall.
Well, my big experience in high school with sports was actually being in marching band. Because like I was in regular band, but then marching band in high school, you get together and you do the halftime and you sit in the stands and play the fight song and everything. And I should know so much about football because I'd probably been to 100 games, but I can't remember anything about football because I just was talking with my friends, and all of a sudden the instructor would be like, fight song, like that. Okay, here we go. We lift our trumpet up and I'd start playing the fight song and put the trumpet back down and go back talking to my friends. It was just a social thing. And it's funny because there's like dichotomy of this football team in the field who none of us know or like. We don't know any of them. And they're all probably flirting with the cheerleaders and stuff. And then we have our own little social circle, the band geeks, and sitting in the stands, and I'm trying to flirt with the flute player, and stuff like that. So, but we never even associate with people who are down in the field.
She plays the flute.
I mean, that's the best ones, flute and clarinet right there. But
I prefer the woodwinds.
Oh yeah. But then we played the halftime show, which was always fun, and it was actually really fun, and like being part of this giant behemoth walking around all at one time, and it was a lot of work because we had to rehearse even in the summertime. It was crazy.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I went to football games and maybe one basketball game, but it was always for the social experience. It was never to go and root on the team or because of any sense of pride in our football team.
Exactly. You're there for burgers, hang out with your friends, and yeah,
right. It's because there's that cute girl who didn't seem to mind when you put your arm around her last week, and you're hoping she's going to be here, and when she's not, you're probably going to eat too much popcorn.
And you probably missed your shot, so she already has a boyfriend now. So you should have said something.
You definitely missed your shot, dude. You missed it.
I'm not gonna miss my shot. I already did. Damn it. Oh fuck.
Oh man. But yeah, I went to maybe one basketball game, and as I remember, like most high school things, it was to impress a girl, and she wasn't even playing. I think her friend was on the team.
Mm.
So even that was not due to any amount of respect for the sport.
No,
it was because I wanted to sweatedly palm my arm around a girl and then get rejected.
Which we're really good at there. Yeah,
that was the goal.
I mean, otherwise, so Sportsball, it's just been my stepdad watches football and golf like since I've been 8 years old. That's what he watches all the time. And so I've learned enough about how football works and somewhat how golf, the finer rules of golf, because golf is pretty straightforward, but there's, finer things, penalties and that kind of thing. So I'm aware of them, but I tried, even when I was working at CNN, everyone was really involved in the March Madness pool for basketball. So I tried to learn more about the college teams and stuff, and I had no interest. I really tried to be interested, and it's just so uninteresting to me. I don't know why. And I know you can be a geek and like sports at the same time. Like we have a fan of Paul Wright who watches the show or listens to the show over there on the Cosmic Pizza podcast. He's a big American football fan, which is kind of hard to do over there because you have to find the right channels to watch it and stuff like that. And he's also a big geek, a big Star Trek nerd. So you can be both. I just couldn't get into it. I don't know. Have you been able to get into watching any sports at all?
No, the hell with that.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
I mean, watching them in person is a little different.
Esports are the closest I get. And maybe the Olympics occasionally.
Yeah, Olympics, and also like going to live games. Like when I was working at CNN, we got free tickets to all the Atlanta sports teams. And so I went to a football game, went to a couple of baseball games, which baseball game is pretty fun for social because not much is going on in the games. You just talk with your friends. It's a long, boring game. But the best thing was hockey. We got to go to live hockey matches. And we get a big giant beer, go to the hockey match, people getting fights, the whole thing, there's blood flying. It's like, this is pretty entertaining. So I recommend that to people if they haven't done it, see a live hockey game. I'm sure our Canadian listeners have seen plenty of them.
I think I've been to one or two live hockey games.
Yeah?
I've been to, God, when was that? Probably with church or something. Realistically, it was like a youth group activity or something like that.
Makes sense.
And then Harrisburg, where I grew up in Pennsylvania, had a minor league soccer team, the Heat.
Oh, the Heat.
They also had the minor league basketball team, the Hammerheads, but I'm pretty sure that the city lost that like when I was 7. The Hammerheads disbanded.
That was like our hockey team in Atlanta. Right, the year after I left, Canada bought them. So basically, we just lost our entire hockey team. There's no Atlanta hockey. The Thrashers, they're just gone. Like, thanks, nice. Canada. Just stole, and we were like had the most African American players of any hockey team in the NHL because it's in Atlanta. It was a very high African American population, and hockey is a very white sport. So there's we had the most African Americans of any hockey team. Which
That's right. It's 5.
And then they were sold to Canada. Oh man, but yeah, esports. You mentioned that. I was, really into Overwatch, as you still are a lot, and I started watching more of the tournaments that were going on because they've really gotten into it, paying big money for these teams to be together for different countries and even states here in the US. And I went to my first watching party. This is a couple of years ago for the big tournaments that were going on. And we have a Florida team, the Florida Mayhem. And I got my first sports feeling experience. We were all in a bar watching on a big screen the Overwatch championship. And people were rooting for their team, wearing the shirts. I have my Florida Mayhem t-shirt on, and we were just rooting and like, oh man, he's not good. He's not going to do it. Oh, he's not going to do it. And we were following the commentator. I understood what the commentators were talking about, like the finer things the commentators were talking about. I was like, this is great. And so I finally understood what it felt like to be a sports fan. And it is real sports. It's going to be more and more acknowledged as a real sport going forward because the amount of time and practice you had to put into, how hard it is to get good at Overwatch or other games like it.
You've got more and more universities offering scholarships, starting esports teams.
Sponsorships and advertising's getting there. So they know where the money is and they want to do it.
Especially in the age of COVID right now where people can't come together physically, esports have really filled a big gap.
Oh, yeah. And it's just, I'm hoping it gets to be more countries get involved besides South Korea. And that would be great. But, we'll get there.
All right, Jarman, I've got a wrap-up question for us.
All right, what's that?
What is a sport that you would be okay with your future children playing and being invested in? Because I think about this. What if Joyce is really into sports?
Yeah. I mean, I thought about that too, since me and my current partner are not really into sports. What would we do with that? And I definitely just would say no to football or rugby. I'd be like, no, because that'll damage your body and your brain. Just not going to happen. You can do it if you turn 18 and you want to choose to do it then, sure. But I'm not helping you do that. But any other sport I'd support. I'd be really more excited if they're into something, I don't know, that used your brain a little. But I really like soccer and the idea of getting more into that because I had watched some of the World Cup games when I was in England, and that was really fun. So I could imagine watching myself I can imagine watching those games and not being bored out of my mind. But yeah, what about you?
I hope that my kid gets into something cool and not something expensive.
That's true.
Curling would be cool, but I hope they don't get into horse stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Or rowing, where you need to sponsor a $60,000 boat every year. That kind of crap.
Oh, yeah. That'd be cost prohibitive. So I'd be like, well, we just can't afford that. So you're not doing it.
Well, I remember our crew team at our high school had crazy fundraising efforts, insane fundraising efforts. Because the amount of money that just the stuff costed. And
they think of, it's silly, but Winter Park, they're thinking of rowing and crew being a prestigious sport, like lacrosse. It's like a rich people sport,
Yeah, I remember the crew teams actually talking about how, there are smart kids with 4.0 GPAs everywhere, but they're more Ivy League recruiters that come to check out the crew team than the IB kids. I remember.
Oh, yeah. It's ridiculous.
Because rowing is huge in the Ivy League.
Yeah, because when I was at Boston University, the right there is the Charles River, which separates BU, and then the other side is MIT and Harvard, right across the river from us. And the thing was, the big thing with the bean pot was with the hockey, but also with the rowing team. So there's a big, down the Charles River, you had these big rowing competitions. Oh, yeah. And so that's the big thing, and make a lot of money off of it. And so, it's so silly they're trying to get those kids as opposed to kids making the best grades. And also we had so many deaths while we were there. Because there's rowing accidents and there's people just dead in the Charles River. A lot of the rowing teams find dead bodies floating in the water as they're rowing. They'll hit a body.
Oh, so it's like a public service.
Oh, yeah. Because kids at MIT kill themselves all the time. So it's great. On a dire note. But yeah, also, I think soccer would be a cheap thing for your kid to get into relatively.
Oh, yeah. Shin pads, ball.
Yeah, you're good.
Outfit.
Yeah. Volleyball. There you go. It's a good one.
Oh yeah, volleyball, like knee pads, shorts, and a shirt. We're good.
I wouldn't. Hopefully, like I wouldn't want if I had a daughter or son to get into gymnastics too much because it stunts your growth. But
well, not only that, there's a lot of really messed up culture mixed up in gymnastics. You
Yeah.
only have to watch 1 or 2 documentaries on Netflix to find this out.
it's pretty disturbing.
Oh yeah, there's some crazy stuff. Crazy stuff.
So, final verdict is we're not into sports, but esports is the way to go.
Esports the way to go. Either
Yeah.
way, I'm going to be sweaty.
Yeah, I don't like being outside or sweating, so
That's a problem for me.
it's not going to work. So, I guess that brings us to the end of the Sappy Crap podcast.
That's right. Thank you for taking this stumble down Sportsball memory lane. Join us next time when we're going to talk about a topic so awesome we don't even know what it is yet.
It could be anything, so please join us next time for whatever we talk about. It'll be sappy.
And remember, the good old days weren't always that good.
This podcast was brought to you by A Play on Nerds.